Thanks so much for tuning in to this conversation. I'm your host, Niraj Shah, and my guest today is Mr. Shishir Joshipura of Praj Industries. It's been a while that I've had a chance to speak to him, and there's so much happening in this pocket that it's lovely to get his thoughts on all that's happening within the various pockets that they are present in, and thereby also get a sense of what Praj will be doing over the course of the medium term. Mr. Joshipura, great having you. Thanks for taking the time out.
Thank you. Good morning, and lovely to be here back with you.
Thank
And
you
your
so much,
viewers,
sir.
of course.
Okay, can I just start off with how do you foresee the kind of growth that could come into some of the segments? Because at times it befuddles me as to which of the segments will grow better, simply because while ethanol was anyways doing well, there is a lot of announcements about what's happening to CBG. And as I see in your last 3 quarters, the non-ethanol business as well, and it's also starting to show some promise.
Well, Neeraj, you actually said it. So, fundamentally, as we have talked in the past as well, the whole phenomena of energy transition that is taking place across the world, where economies are and the corporates are moving from high carbon intensity energy to low carbon to no carbon, and no carbon or green hydrogen, green ammonia, that space. And this transition is obviously created a very large canvas of opportunities for us. And apart from, as you said, the non-ethanol business, the biofuel opportunity for ethanol in itself is a large opportunity. And added to that, there have been different solutions that have emerged. One big segment, of course, is the emergence of sustainable aviation fuel as a very clear, in a mid-term kind of a time frame. That's a very, very clear scope where a lot of progress is expected across the globe. The energy transition of green hydrogen, green ammonia, waste to energy, these projects are also taking some very, very concrete shape now. And that is giving a big push to our energy transition related business, which is housed in our engineering business entity. So on both fronts, the energy transition phenomena leading to our engineering business growing, especially at the back of the no carbon fuel growth, and on the shift to low carbon for not only surface mobility, but also now very clearly air mobility, as we call it. These two are creating very, very significant opportunities for us as we go forward.
I saw in the announcements in the quarter as well that your orders from the global side have inched up. In the US, you received orders not just from, I believe, the energy segment, but others. And please correct me if I'm wrong. Can you talk a bit about that piece and how do you foresee the local versus the global mix at a point of time when everybody else talks to me about the world is seemingly slowing down and India is actually on a high growth path, relatively?
So I think very, 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 very well put by you. So what we are witnessing, as I mentioned to you, that the energy transition is a global phenomenon. It is not restricted to India alone. And probably we are contributing to India's economic growth because we are based here and we are serving those segments outside India. So there are, I think, very clear opportunities in that space globally, and we have a unique position that we've built for ourselves for all. As I say, all the hard work that we've put in, all the bits, that foundation stones that we have put together for our last 4 decades or so. So what is helping us now is what we built over the past, but it's now clearly allowing us to leverage in a very unique way for this whole energy transition phenomena. So you're correct. India, again, I will come back, and as we see, we have seen a big wave coming through on the ethanol side when the government gave this path-breaking EVP20 program. We are now also looking at, I would say, very similar kind of a shift taking place as we start to add CBG to our energy portfolio. And you've seen in the past few weeks, there have been announcements from some very significant large corporates about they are paying attention to it and adding that to their portfolio. And obviously, we believe that we'll have a significant role to play there, given our work that we have done on the technology side. So India,
I was going to ask you.
Sorry. So India continues to transit and add to its pie in terms of cleaner fuels. I think that's a great thing to happen. In many ways, we are actually showing world the way to do it. I know many times, many of these movements happen in the developed world, but I believe that this is one area where a developing country is showing the path of how it can be done.
Very interesting. Okay. Well, but one of the in some sense a global leading firm in a developing country showing that, so shouldn't come as a surprise. The question that I have, Mr. Joshipura, now on CBG, because you touched upon that point, and I'll pick up each individual points. Now, you mentioned about receiving a large order or an order from a large conglomerate. IOCs, I believe, announced plans for 30 CBG initiatives, and I'm presuming that by virtue of the partnerships that you have with IOC, you would probably stand to gain there as well. Yesterday, I saw an announcement that Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation has given Adani Total Gas a contract for 500 tons per day of bio CBG and a maintenance for 20 years. So, as you mentioned, a lot of other large conglomerates are getting into the fray. How would the numbers for Praj could look like in this piece? Because I remember 12 months ago, you had mentioned that the CBG program started with fanfare, then hit a bit of a pause. Now it seems to have started again. How confident are you of the continuity, and how can it show in the numbers?
Yeah, so the way I look at it is like this. I think there is the current change that is taking place is not just talks. And I say this because we see clear action on the ground in terms of our dialogue with these interested and very large conglomerates, the way they are going about it, the way we are building the pipeline with them. So I think there is a clear bias for action. And to me, that's a very, very important shift, that this is now a clear bias for action. These projects are not being put up just to show that, we've got a project under a CSR project or anything like that. These are now clear commercial propositions. And I think that's the big shift that has taken place, that these are now clear commercial propositions. They have a long-term view and commitment to make this sector grow. And we are not seeing it only from an isolated one or two, but some real big corporate houses that are now beginning to show they show buy-in to the story of biofuels, and they are beginning to promote that. And I think that's the big shift that has taken place. And that's why we are very, very confident that this sector will start to grow from here onwards.
How can it show in terms of numbers, Mr. Joshipura? The reason I ask is because, and I'll ask this for the combined piece too, but I was at some point of time in the interaction, I was thinking of yesterday when I was preparing for this, I was thinking of asking you that whether growth can come at a J-curve effect or will it be steady? And I saw that the last 2 years, it's actually been a J-curve effect growth for you. You've grown at a breakneck pace from FY21 to 23. So I'm just trying to piece all of this together. The opportunities are large, but you're sitting on a hefty base. How can CBG, for example, contribute to Praj's overall consolidated growth in terms of numbers? Any indications, if not exact numbers?
So let's put like this. So let us say the government's plan is to put up 5,000 CBG projects over a 5-year time frame. And I'm saying that's the goal for the country. Now, whether that happens in 5 years or 7 years or 8 years, time will tell. We know even if 100 projects are put in a year, let's put like this, we are looking at 10,000 crores of investment going off the order of 10,000 crores if 100 projects come on ground. Now, that's a significant number to be added as a sector at the start of its journey. So 100 projects would lead to 10,000 crore kind of capital outlay that will need to be put, and of course then there will be services, etc., that get associated with it. So we are looking at a market which is very new, but is poised for, as you probably said it, for a J-shaped growth itself as a segment. We have done the hard miles, if I say that, and we still have to do a lot more, but we've done some hard miles behind us in terms of our ability to experience and knowledge that we can bring to the table for our customers. Remember that this is a very, very new segment. Not many countries in the world, in fact hardly any, who have done work at this scale with this kind of variety of feedstocks that India is attempting to do. And that is why technology has a very, very important role to play. We are engaged in a very different kind of a dialogue with our customers to help solve the problems that they've sort of got, that, okay, I've got this feedstock for 3 months in a year and another for 6 months and so on. And how do we go about creating a solution for them? Because one key thing about CBG is that you can't make it and store it. You have to consume it literally when it is produced, more or less. And unless you sort of put it into a pipeline network, but even there. So from that perspective, I think it's very important that the whole ecosystem gears itself up for that. We are not a gas economy as a country. I believe that we will be in a position to achieve a very, very good position because of outstanding support that we have on the policy side, the lead that several of the large conglomerates have taken, and the fact that this makes sense, that this makes commercial sense.
Mr. Joshipura, sorry, just dwelling on this one for one more minute. About a year and a half ago, you had told me that CBG is a large opportunity which not too many people are thinking of. Now you're telling me that you're discounting the actual intent of the government by nearly 98% and still telling me that it will be a very lucrative opportunity. I believe heart in heart you would believe that it won't be so low. The actual execution, if doesn't reach 5,000 CBG plants, could actually not be as low as 100, could be slightly more, right?
No, what I'm saying is that it will reach 5,000 one fine day. I have no doubt. Zero.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that today we are starting literally at a zero level, more or less. So from here onwards to scale it up, the whole ecosystem has to scale it up, the CGD network, the pipeline network for distribution. You think like this, there are not enough vehicles on the road today to consume gas. So that has to start growing as population. Right? The industry has to switch over to CBG. So I'm saying even if we start out at 100 plants a year, and that's a significant number to start in year one. Just I want to put some numbers for you so you get some idea of what I'm saying. If you look at a country like United States of America, which has been a very mature ethanol market for a long period of time, they have 200 plants of ethanol across the country. That's all they have. So when I say we start out with 100 units in a country like India, yeah, it's a significant number to start with. We will travel to 5,000. I have no doubt about that. And what I'm telling you is that this is a big runway being created. This is not a 1 year opportunity. This is a long 5-7 years kind of a play, even more. And then it will start to develop as we move along, as the whole ecosystem also starts to develop.
But you reckon it could be meaningful for Praj? It is not a string of pearls contribution. It could be meaningfully large for Praj at some point of time.
It is meaningfully large. It is meaningfully large.
Okay. Thank you. Needed to know that. Okay. Just a word on ethanol because that seems to be going at a great pace. Have you noticed any changes in either execution, intent, or anything else which could actually be even higher than before? What are your recent musings on this? And how does it benefit Praj, by the way?
Well, so let me tell you two things. One is I was in Goa just about 6-8 weeks ago, and there was under the G20 program, we had a very, very interesting conference and confluence of minds of about 19 governments and industry. And the clear message was we want to grow biofuels to its potential across the world. And I think that's the significant message that came out of that meeting. And what was very heartening for me was a clear desire on the part of the countries like America, India, Brazil, who have sort of shown the way on how it can be done, to include those countries which have the potential but have not realized the potential or the promise that biofuel holds for them. And I think that's a significant addition to the whole canvas, because that means that you are now not only taking the application deep, but you're also taking it wide. And I think these two factors combined, along with technological advances, that we were talking to Brazil delegation, and they said, we are now testing for E30. Now that means that same vehicle fleet will run at E30, 30% blending. We are at about 11% as a country. And our target is go to 20 in 2025. And then we will be in a position to go forward from there onwards. So that's one clear phenomenon. The second part on ethanol story that will develop is because alcohol to jet pathway, it is called when you produce sustainable aviation fuel for aircrafts. uses ethanol as a feedstock. And that becomes a very significant change because so far we've seen ethanol in its end use, but we now also see this as an intermediate to convert to another molecule. And that's a significant change. So I think those two will drive. There are other applications as well. We were talking about blending in diesel, etc., which of course will come into being. I think what's very important is a clear commitment at the policy level that this is the path we want to take. That is significant.
Sure. By when do any of these take shape and form, Mr. Joshipura? I mean, we've heard of ethanol in aviation fuel for a while now. When do you think it could possibly become a reality?
So, over 120 plus countries are signatory to the CORSIA agreement, which comes into being on 1st of January 2027, which says from that day onwards, all airlines are mandated to blend sustainable aviation fuel in their aircraft as they fly. So it's not too far out. If we have to have it on 1st January 27, we have a very limited period of time to think, plan, execute, create capacity because there is none right now. So we will see a lot of action that will happen.
Okay. About on the high purity side, you seem to have done some pretty smart numbers there and work there. Give us a lowdown. It's been a while that we've spoken about that side.
Yeah, very interesting development there as well. As you know, that business we started out as a pure high purity water play. We added part of the process systems designs for that. But we also foresaw, and therefore we started to work with some of our customers. And I always believe that it all starts from our customers all the time. The fact that there's going to be a lot more bio-based manufacturing in pharmaceutical segment, and that creates a demand for fermentation as a technology. And fermentation technology is something that Praj understands extremely well on the industrial side. So that knowledge that exists with us on the fermentation side, we are able to leverage that, bring it to us to PHS, high purity, and then take it to our customers. So that is a significant addition that we have had to our portfolio in that business. And that is how you begin to see a little different color there.
Yeah, and you reckon that orders on the international side as well could pick up? Did I read it correctly, or am I mistaking here that you got some pretty strong order flow from the US in particular on the HPS segment, if I'm not wrong? Or was it some other segment?
No. So the United States story is a little different because United States is likely to be the first large market in the world that will add significant SAF capacity, sustainable aviation fuel capacity to its under the IRA program. And a significant portion, the first half of the capacity, roughly first half, so it's about 3 billion gallons by 2030. About half of that will come through what is called the HEFA route, which is you use edible oils and use cooking oil, etc. as feedstock. The problem is that that's all you can do from that feedstock because there's not much of it. But the rest of it, and from there onwards, we will start looking at ATJ, alcohol to jet pathway, and that creates a unique opportunity for us in the United States for low carbon ethanol play. And because the current ethanol in its form, the way it exists, is not fit for conversion to SAF, we need to make it a low carbon ethanol, and that is a technology that we have. And that's the dialogue that we are having with several current US producers right now to help them go down that path and convert to low carbon ethanol. So that's what will happen. And we believe that that transition of low carbon ethanol economy will start taking place beginning next year, and that's when we see a significant play for us in the United States on that dimension. The other dimension is, as I already mentioned at the beginning of our talk, is about energy transition, where a huge opportunity is being created around green hydrogen, green ammonia, that space.
Okay, I stand corrected. Excuse me for that. Nevertheless, okay, my final question, Mr. Joshipura, and I refer back to what I mentioned somewhere in the interview that you've actually had, and quite deceptively to my mind, a very strong growth registered FY21 to 23. I mean, the CAGR must be extremely high. Now, the base is high, of course, but the number of segments out there are wide open. Would you reckon that you could hit, or you could be in a patch of consolidation in terms of execution of numbers, purely numbers, over the course of the next 12 to 18 months before the next strong growth path begins? Or is it that's not necessary despite the base?
So let me put it like this. So we put another dimension to our growth as well. And that is, we said that as we start to grow, we need to grow healthy. Because sometimes very rapid growth can lead to weaknesses in the corporate performance, right? Which initially go unnoticed and then they become. So we are very strongly focused on ensuring our strong ROC continues, our strong cash flow continues, profitability improves, and we grow the top line. So it's not just chasing a top line at all. And therefore, we are trying to farm out a strategy which allows us to do that. Now, when we do this, obviously, are we going to compromise on our growth? Answer is no. We are going to grow. We are going to grow at a defined space because our area, as you rightly put, are very rapidly expanding. Some of these, as I told you, are on a 3-year horizon. Some of these are on a 1-year horizon. So overall, I think we are looking at a decent period ahead of the corporate. We are not thinking in terms of saying, hey, will we grow? So that's not the question for us. The question for us is how we will position ourselves so that when future starts to unfold as we see it, we are best positioned to exploit it to the maximum advantage for our stakeholders. That's the strategy that we are playing out, and I'm very clear that what we're focusing on will yield positive results as it's done in the past.
Okay. No, I don't know. Maybe because Q1 and relative to the base was flattish. That's why when I was looking at the estimates, despite, I mean, you have very strong growth in the last 2 years. People are penciling in just about starting double-digit growths for FY24 and 25, and hence my question that maybe it could be consolidation before the next up move.
So maybe there's a quarter like that, but because as I said, the business itself is shifting its nature. Export, energy transition, these are little longish cycle time projects.
Right.
So the nature of the business is also changing a little bit. It's no longer just doing large domestic base, customer base, which are quicker in turnaround time, etc. That's not the case now. So from that perspective, yes, the customer profile is changing. The market profile for us is changing. It's changing in the healthier direction, and that's the good news. But obviously, it extends the timeline a little bit, but nothing else.
Got it. Before we wrap up, last 1 minute, very quickly, I usually do this. I ask you about a remarkable thing that happened within Praj or in the biofuel space, or something that really stood out for you in the last 3 to 4 months in your company. Anything that stood out?
Yes, the aha moment, as you call it. So many things actually, but 2 significant things that I want to mention to you. One was on 19th of May when we flew the AirAsia aircraft Airbus from Pune to Delhi from a sustainable aviation fuel that we made from a sugar cane that was just growing 50 kilometers outside our R&D center. We took the sugar cane and converted that to a sustainable aviation fuel. So that I think was, and the fact that it was so warmly received by Honorable Mr. Puri and all the policymakers, our partners, Indian Oil, AirAsia. I think you should have seen the way everything came together for the cause. It was an amazing feeling to be in Delhi to receive this aircraft along with Mr. Puri and feel proud about the fact that we made a sustainable aviation fuel from a good domestic feedstock and showcase that it's possible to do so. So that was one big moment. The second one, and I mentioned this because, as I mentioned, there was a deliberation in Goa under G20 on the biofuel pathway. And India was showcasing to the world its prowess in this field, the kind of work that we have done under the new national biofuel policy and how that has yielded results for us. And we were the private sector company that was showcased as a world leader in this technology that could also help other countries transform. And frankly speaking, we were not allowed to put our logo anywhere on our display. And a very proud moment for me because even though there was no logo, we were showcasing ourselves as India to the world. And that's where we were participating. So for me, those were the goosebump moments for the
Certainly,
last.
certainly aha moments. Congratulations on those. We'd love to recount the 19th May event in person when we meet Mr. Joshipura, but thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Neil. Lovely speaking to you as always. Thank you so much.
Likewise, sir. And viewers, thanks for tuning into this conversation.